Pelican, so we a proud pelican.
The UE Mona is the best place to get your degree. This is coming from a proud pelican, of course. I invite you to become a part of the Pelican family and have one less worry.
Welcome to the University of the West Indies. The best in the West, no, the best in the world, no, the best in the galaxy. Your place to rise and your place to shine and your place to be. So get ready to experience the place where them call you. Welcome to
Be a pioneer, a problem solver.
A critical thinker.
Don't just build a monument,
Build a leader.
be that leader.
We get them thing they done properly. Been leaving our mark.
So what are you waiting for? Apply to the UE Mona and become a part of the Pelican family. So apply, apply, apply.
Proud pelican, so we a proud pelican.
The UE Mona is the best place to get your degree. This is coming from a proud pelican, of course. I invite you to become a part of the Pelican family and have one less worry.
Welcome to the University of the West Indies. The best in the West, no, the best in the world, no, the best in the galaxy. Your place to rise and your place to shine and your place to be. So get ready to experience the place where them call you. Welcome to
Be a pioneer, a problem solver.
A critical thinker.
Don't just build a monument,
Build a leader.
be that leader.
We get them thing they done properly. Been leaving our mark.
So what are you waiting for? Apply to the UE Mona and become a part of the Pelican family. So apply, apply, apply.
Proud pelican, so we a proud pelican.
The UE Mona is the best place to get your degree. This is coming from a proud pelican, of course. I invite you to become a part of the Pelican family and have one less worry.
Welcome to the University of the West Indies. The best in the West, no, the best in the world, no, the best in the galaxy. Oh, your place to rise and your place to shine and your place to be. So get ready to experience the place where them call you way. Welcome to
Be a pioneer, a problem solver.
A critical thinker.
Don't just build a monument,
Build a leader.
be that leader.
We get them thing they done properly. Been leaving our mark.
So what are you waiting for? Apply to the UE Mona and become a part of the Pelican family. So apply, apply, apply.
Proud Pelican, say we are proud Pelican.
The UE Mona is the best place to get your degree. This is coming from a proud Pelican, of course. I invite you to become a part of the Pelican family and have one less worry.
Welcome to the University of the West Indies. The best in the West, no, the best in the world, no, the best in the galaxy. Oh, your place to rise and your place to shine and your place to be. So get ready to experience the place where them call you way. Welcome to
Be a pioneer, a problem solver.
A critical thinker.
Don't just build a monument,
Build a leader.
be that leader.
We get them thing they done properly. Been leaving our mark.
So what are you waiting for? Apply to the UE Mona and become a part of the Pelican family. So apply, apply, apply.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to commence. It is my great pleasure this evening to be your MC at this most important distinguished lecture, the fourth in our series. We started in September with an international speaker. Then we did 2 rounds of roundtable discussion on education, financing of tertiary education. And we are coming now closer to what this distinguished lecture series was really meant to be, to highlight and showcase the best of the University of the West Indies, Mona, in terms of scholarship. This week has been a dramatic week so far, especially for those of us who follow political events. But it has been no less dramatic here at the Mona campus. And I think, Principal, we could justifiably dub this week the Simone Badal week. With a distinguished lecture tonight, yesterday a tour of laboratory, the night before a launch of a book. It is really Simone Badal that we are celebrating. Let's give her a hand, please. We are grateful to Victoria Mutual, who has caught our vision and shared our vision to reposition UWI Mona at the center of all intellectual discourse in this country. And tonight is really a time to testify. Those of us who are in the church know the value of testimony. Yeah? David said, "Come and hear all ye that fear God, and I will declare what he has done for my soul." And that is what we are doing tonight, highlighting the best of our scholarship and saying to the skeptics and those who are asking what we are doing, come and see what the University of the West Indies is doing, our relevance, our scholarship. And even the topic of the lecture tonight, leaving no cell behind. It is science, but it smacks of a political slogan, don't it? Leaving no child behind. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this important lecture. And I know that as we progress, the room will be filled, and we're looking forward to that. So help me please to welcome, first of all, our principal, Professor Denzel Williams, who initiated this distinguished lecture series. Give Principal Weber a hand, please. Principal Williams, rather. We are expecting Honorable Marsha Smith. She's not here yet, and I think it's obvious why she's not here, but we still expect her. We are expecting Mrs. Florette Blackwood, Senior Strategist on Sports and Gender. Is she here? I think she'll join us shortly, representing the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. I wanted to put your hands together for our Deputy Principal, who is the driver behind this distinguished lecture series, Professor Marvin Reed. Of course, our sponsor represented here today, the CEO of VM Group, Mr. Courtney Campbell, who is always with us. We are also expecting Miss Nicolette Henry, representing Anton Edmonds, Senior Strategist on Sports and Gender at the IDB. I want to welcome our Pro-Vice Chancellor for Graduate Studies, Professor Lee, Henry Lee. Please give her a hand. Our Deputy Registrar, Jonathan Archie. Members of the management of the VM Group, our sponsors. Listen to me, when we talk money, we have to clap it. And of course, members of our own executive management here and senior management deans, our campus librarian, etc. from the Mona campus. Please give a hand. Alumni, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. So it is our pleasure this evening to hear from Dr. Simone Badal Macreath, who we are celebrating this evening. Please stand, Simone, and take a bow. Everybody, please recognize Simone Badal. Wonderful. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on preliminaries. We'll just go right down to the opening remarks, and we'll invite our principal, Professor Denzel Williams, to give some remarks, and he'll be followed immediately thereafter by our chief sponsor, president and CEO of the VM Group, Mr. Courtney Campbell. Please welcome them in that order.
Let me thank our very distinguished registrar, and having heard him gone through that list of introductions, I will not repeat it, and I will just say good evening, nice and decent people. But I would be remiss if I didn't recognize our sponsors for this evening, Mr. Courtney Campbell from the VM Group, and the entire team from the VM Group. We're very happy that you have partnered with us in this endeavor, and we're forever grateful for your generosity. I know, Registrar, you would have recognized a lot of persons here this evening, but also I'm pretty sure that Dr. Badal would want me to also recognize someone very special in her professional life, and that's Professor John Lindo, one of her mentor. Professor Lindo, welcome. It's good to see you. But this evening is really about Dr. Badal, and I must say that I was very pleased to have listened on the radio some time ago. I think it was Tuesday evening or so, yeah, when I heard Dr. Badal really exposing the virtues of our university and really what it means to be in a high-quality academic environment. I was so pleased and proud that this is one of our own, and I'm very happy that we're doing it domestically. Thank you very much. We're very proud of you and your work, yes? And colleagues, I think you should give her a round of applause because she really deserves it, yes? So this evening, I just, it says I should give remarks, and I need to be very careful because I'm reminded of the Lord's Day, as the goodly registrar started off us in a very ecumenical way, telling us about those who are in church. I remember the Lord's Day when, some of you may know, George Headley was a great cricketer who always, for some reason or the other, whenever he goes to the wicket, he normally gets high on the spirit. And so if he doesn't get high on the spirit, he doesn't perform well. And he went out and he got high on the spirits, came to the crease the morning to bat at Lord's, and with the entire house packed to watch what they usually call the Little Bradman. And interestingly, within the first ball of the over, he was bowled LBW. Plump, gone. Entire Lords came to see him. And that was going to be a big decision for the umpire. So the bowler, those of you who follow cricket, ran up and said, "Umpire, he's gone." The umpire looked around and watched the entire ground in silence, could not believe the man they came to see is gone on the first ball. And the umpire shook his head and said, "Not out." So the match went on, and as you all know, Headley went on to do what he does best. And he played a wonderful innings at Lord's. And at the end of the day, the bowler, the batsman, and everybody coming off the field, and the bowler went up to the umpire and said to the umpire, do you know that George Headley was out? The umpire said, yes, I did. But the people didn't come to see you bowl, they came to see him bat. So as a result of that, I'm very mindful this evening that the people didn't come to hear me give opening remarks. They really come to hear about no cell left behind. And as a result of that, I really want to make my remarks quite brief. But just to say that, indeed, while we celebrate Dr. Badal and her work and her entire team, to indicate to you that this evening's event, or this week's, the events that have been unfolding this week around the work of Simone and her team, is indeed a manifestation of why we call ourselves a university. Because a lot of people still question what is the value of investing in an institution like ours. But I say to you, look no further. What Simone and her team have been doing is a clear manifestation of the tremendous value that a high-quality institution like the UWI will bring to national, regional, and global developments. You do not get cell line research in high schools. You're not going to get cell line research in a polytechnic or a training institute that is just turning out some people to go and build a car or make bread or, answer the phone in a call center. You don't get that. You get this kind of research from a quality academic institution where faculty members spend a significant amount of their time thinking through problems, identifying methodologies that can give them concrete and scientifically proven solutions, and then applying those solutions in a way that they can solve contemporary and unforeseen problems. That's really what we do here. That is priceless. You can't attach a value to that. Because indeed, 100 years from now, what the Badal et al. Have been doing, persons will think that it has no relevance today. But 100 years from now, when the solutions are coming to bear and transforming society, they will say, but we never thought about those problems now. And that's what separates us as a university from all the other places that are there handing out certificates and putting people in a place on a Saturday or a Sunday and put them in a room and say, put some things on the blackboard and then we give you a certificate. This is what distinguishes us. But this is value that you're not going to get overnight. I'm sure that when Simone comes to the podium and tells you how long she has spent in the lab, ignoring family, ignoring friends, ignoring social networks, etc., to get to that solution, despite whatever financial gain comes to her from it, the societal value of this work is greater, Courtney, by multiples compared to the private benefit the individual gets. And so, that is what we call in economics a positive externality. The private benefit is lower than the public good. And that is value because that's what makes a university great. And so, in order to get that as a society, you have to make tremendous amount of investments to keep the lab going, to keep the faculty motivated, to ensure that the faculty can plug into global research networks, to ensure that the faculty can go and research and find the relevant pieces of literature to support the work they're doing. It requires investment. So when we talk about funding education and funding tertiary education And we hear the very dangerous argument that at the tertiary level, people are closer to market, and therefore the state should take away the funding and put that at pre-primary and primary level. It's a very dangerous road to go down as a country. It's a very dangerous road, because what you're going to have is a set of people who are clogged up at the literate and numeracy stage, but cannot be transferred to the tertiary stage to do this. And this is what is going to make your country great. Not just be numerate and literate. While that is foundational and is necessary, it's a necessary condition, it's not a sufficient condition. So the point I'm trying to get at, colleagues and friends, is that funding a university is not something that you should take lightly. It should be a national priority, if indeed you are interested in developing a sophisticated economy where people can earn high income, people can live a better standard of living, people can actually feel proud about raising family, doing business and work. We cannot have an economy that is stuck, as the economists say, in what is called the middle income trap, where all that we produce are people who can earn minimum wages. It is real, and it's a challenge that we have to face, and this is going to be the next big policy priority over the next decade for Jamaica. Where do we put the investment? Should we use it to build roads, bridges, or should we use it to build human capital that can give us the dividends in the next 30 years to come? This is the challenge that we have to contend with. And as a university, as the #1 ranked university in the region, we are ready to engage that challenge. We are ready to put the solution forward. Look no further. What Dr. Badal here is doing is just a small portion of what we do in the academy at Mona. I encourage you to continue to support your academy. I encourage you to continue to support the work of what we do at the university so that we can build a more prosperous society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Campus Registrar, Dr. Stanbury, Principal, Professor Williams, Deputy Principal, Acting Deputy Principal, Professor Reed. Where's Professor Reed at the top, right? Dean of the Faculty of Medical Sciences, Professor Thame, and of course, our very, very special Dr. Simone Badal Macreith. Good evening, friends. I'm very, very pleased today as we convene for, yes, this is the 4th in the series of the UWI Mona VM Group Distinguished Lecture Series. Through purposeful collaboration between industry experts and academia, this lecture series aims to make a meaningful contribution to national and regional discourse, leading to well-considered and informed actions that improve lives. We at the VM Group are quite proud of this partnership with the UWI Mona campus. We believe strongly that this platform is potentially transformational, as together we seek to equip our Caribbean people for better outcomes in various fields. We're quite excited for Dr. Simone Badal Macreith's presentation on what is a timely and significant topic with particular relevance to Caribbean lives. Yesterday I had the privilege of visiting and touring the lab in which Dr. Badal and her research assistants do their tremendous work. It is groundbreaking cancer research. And I'm absolutely certain that our shared eagerness to hear from Dr. Badal this evening will be well rewarded. The need, as you know, is great. This, friends, is a big deal. I'm not a scientist, but like you, I have friends, I have family members, relatives who have been impacted by cancer. Breast cancer, prostate cancer, the other cancers. Research from the World Health Organization, their cancer agency, which is called the International Agency for Research on Cancer, finds that the global cancer burden is rising. In 2022, there were an estimated 20 million new cancer cases diagnosed across the world. In the same year, 2022, 9.7 million people died from cancer. This rising cancer burden, though, is exacerbated by the gross inequity in cancer treatment. The research showed that, taking breast cancer as an example, survival rates were higher in more developed countries. Patients in lower income nations, such as Jamaica, the study found, were at much higher risk of dying of the disease due to the late diagnosis and inadequate access to quality treatment. It is a hard truth, too, that even though the risk of dying from cancer in the United States, our powerful neighbor to the north, has fallen over the last 3 decades, that even in the States, factors such as race, ethnicity, socio-economic background, and location continue to have an impact on occurrence and outcomes. And finally, statistics from the American Cancer Society paint a bleak picture for black lives. Black people have the highest cancer death rate and the shortest survival of any racial or ethnic group in the US for most cancers. Black men also have the highest cancer incidence rate. Black women have a 41% higher death rate from breast cancer than white women do, despite their incidence rate being 4% lower. So they actually do have cancer less, but once they get it, they're dying quicker than the others. So this is a big deal. We should therefore consider Dr. Badal's lecture and her inspiring work in the context of the hard reality and ask, how can this be advanced to achieve greater well-being for our people? Beyond this, I'm sure that all of us who are in any way connected with the UWI, and indeed all Caribbean people, can be proud of the fact that this groundbreaking research that has great prospects for reducing health inequity is being led by a UWI scientist and her anti-cancer research Jamaica team. I'm really so proud. I've known Dr. Badal now for probably a decade, and I've followed her career. She is so impressive. Not only her intellect, but just her personality, her leadership skills, her commitment to building a better society for all of us. Very, very impressive. So I want to say to Professor Williams and to Professor Reed, thank you. On behalf, thank you for engaging VM on this. And I want to say to everyone, on behalf of the UWI Mona and the VM Group collaboration team, thank you for being here and for participating in this effort. We are confident that you will be intellectually nourished this evening and effectively inspired to similarly face and accept responsibility for addressing the enormous challenges of our day. Thank you very much.
On top of the world. And no other card puts you in charge like your new Visa credit card from VM. Every click, swipe, or tap solves a problem, sweetens a moment, and unlocks rewards. So, what puts you in control of purchases, payments, and a global platform of perks? This card can. Get your VM Visa Gold or Visa Platinum credit card today.
Let's hear it again for Principal and Mr. Campbell. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to go into the lecture. It's high science. So to ease us into that high science, I think we need some entertainment. And we are going to be entertained by Mr. Rolando Small, saxophonist. Give him a hand, please. For Dr.
Ladies and gentlemen, an honor to be here. Reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight. Simone, this is your testimony, don't it? But they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards. Know me? I make sure I prepare some notes. Because she don't want me talk off the cuff, you know. Because I will go off rail. But I'm a passion and love for her will come out. But just to ensure that I'm guided and I say what I need to say, I've prepared some notes, Simone. I think you'll be appreciative of that. So here we go. Bear with me. So it is my profound honor and privilege to stand before you today at this extremely important conversation and gathering as part of the Mona VM Group Distinguished Lecture Series. Tonight, we are privileged to host a luminary in the field of biochemistry and cancer research, Dr. Simone Badal Moncrief. Dr. Badal Moncrief is an award-winning scientist whose groundbreaking work has paved a new path in fighting cancer, particularly for people who look like me, you, and her. Black women, black men. Grappling with prostate cancer and breast cancer, as we would have heard if you were listening throughout the week. Her journey is one that is taken by very few, but one that she has taken with extreme grit and determination. And I've seen it firsthand. Simone completed her PhD in record time. Record 2.5 years? Almost, not quite 3, Simone. Almost 3 in record time. And the quality of which her research project was stand up to any scrutiny anywhere. U is not just the #1 university in the Caribbean. U is the university as far as we are concerned, because apart from the academic excellence and the kind of research work that stand up anywhere on any global stage, the wholeness and the richness of our graduates sets us apart wherever we go. All right? So I'm very happy that Simone chose to stay in Jamaica and to make her impact here. That is significant because she had choice. She had many, as a matter of fact. So if you want other reason to admire her, that is one of them that is extremely important. You know, Simone, on her journey, which we shared at NPU, Natural Products Institute, as I mentioned earlier, she continued to involve in her work as she made remarkable discoveries during her PhD studies and has continued to evolve as she continued her work in establishing the biochemistry laboratory here in the Faculty of Medical Sciences. I remember when Simone was writing the grant for that lab, and I remember her excitement when she succeeded in getting that grant, and how she was excited and scared at the same time because she knew what it meant. She had a vision that not everyone bought into or fully understood, but she saw well ahead of her time, because I think she's ahead of her time even now with what she's accomplishing. But she knew that there was something for her to be done, that needed to be done, and she knew she had to do it. So she, despite all the no's and the discouragement, she fought on. And I'm very happy to see you here today. The focus of Dr. Badal Moncrief research is not just on academic pursuit or on the pursuit of knowledge, but on its application towards creating a tangible impact on the lives of those affected by cancer. She has explored the anti-cancer properties of natural products, leading to the development of the first preclinical models consisting of cell lines specifically for prostate cancer for the Caribbean diaspora. Now, it's interesting because, as we know the story about the cancer cell line, it was from a black woman, but still, the drugs and therapy are not based on our cell lines. The pioneering work has been instrumental in fastening the development of anti-cancer drugs that are more suited to the genetic makeup of black populations, addressing a critical gap of current cancer treatment. Tonight's lecture, titled Leaving No Cell Behind, Leveling the playing field for black people with cancer, promises to be more than an academic discourse. It is a clarion call for equity, a testament to the power of scientific research to change lives, and a reflection of Dr. Badal Moncrief's unwavering commitment to our community and to humanity. Now, that song that the saxophonist started with, Redemption Song, this book and its title and Simone work is our redemption song. I felt it, and it was a perfect fitting. Simone, we are grateful and appreciative of you, and we're giving you flowers now while you're here. We're not going to wait until it's too late. Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare to embark on this inspiring journey with Dr. Badal Moncrief, let us open our minds to the possibilities that her work unveils, not just for the scientific community, but for society, as we heard. It is with great anticipation and utmost respect and admiration that I invite Dr. Badal Moncrief to the stage to give us her distinguished lecture. Everyone, give her a round of applause.
Good evening. I am indeed humbled by this opportunity that is bestowed upon me, and I do not take this task lightly, just so you know, Principal. Lots of pressure. But just so you guys are aware that I am suitable to be giving this talk, I'd like to share with you my academic journey. So yes, I am Jamaican, and yes, I went to the prestigious school, St. Richard's Primary, and Meadowbrook High. I then went to UWI, where I did an MBBS degree, and then I specialized in DM. And then I went to Cambridge, I did my PhD there, and I did an MBA, and then I flew in this week for this talk. That sound good, don't it? But no, this is the actual thing. You see, most of my degrees were obtained here. That was not the intention. The truth is, my PhD, I hoped to have done that at Cambridge. I got my letter of acceptance after my MBA that was done at the University of Wales. I came back home to get a breather. And to not be a bum at home, I got a little job while I was preparing my application to go there. But while I was working at the Natural Products Institute, which should not have been for more than a year, the person I was working with, who turned out to be my PhD supervisor, Dr. Delgoda, she encouraged me and then inveigled me to stay with her, and then I acquiesced. And so I did my PhD here and turned Cambridge down. What was my PhD about? It covered two areas: chemo prevention, anti-cancer. So the question is, what is chemo prevention? What is anti-cancer? To answer those, the first thing we need to understand is, what is cancer? And simply put, cancer is a disease of deregulated cell growth. So this deregulation in cell growth can occur because of one, mutations that that occur in your gene because it's passed down through your family, and we term these germline mutations, or mutations that that happen during your lifetime, and we term these somatic mutations. So looking at the latter, there is a particular set. I'm sorry, they're not working. Okay. For the latter part, there are some enzymes in the body called cytochrome P450 enzymes. Sorry. These enzymes, when they encounter certain entities, for example, you have procarcinogens. Every day we encounter procarcinogens, things that we inhale, we eat, put on our skin. But on their own, procarcinogens are not harmful to us. The thing is, when they come in contact with our biological machinery, these cytochrome P450 enzymes, then they are converted into a highly reactive state. And in order to stabilize themselves, they're attracted to entities in our bodies. And these are our nucleic acids. And so they bind to this, and they can lead to either death of our cells or a cancer cell being formed. And so the thought process is, in the presence of these enzymes, a procarcinogen can be converted into an activated carcinogen. So if we can introduce an inhibitor of these specific enzymes, so just to note, cytochrome P450 enzymes, it's a lot of them, about 18 families of them, but particularly one family, which is the one family comprising of 3 members, cytochrome P450 1A1, 1A2, and 1B1, they're highly implicated in converting these procarcinogens into activated forms. If we can introduce inhibitors of these, then we can prevent the presence of activated carcinogens and hence the presence of cancer cells. So that's the thought process. That's where chemoprevention comes in. What is chemoprevention? The process of preventing or blocking cancer from happening. So my PhD, or 50% of it, was looking at, and just to also note, inhibitors of P450 enzymes, specifically the one enzymes, the one family, they also have other uses. Typically when a person who has cancer takes anti-cancer drugs, the purpose is that the tumor shrinks or goes away. But what we have noticed is that there tends to be an overexpression of these specific enzymes in certain cancers, specifically prostate, breast, and others. And what that does is it causes rapid depletion of the anti-cancer drugs. And instead of this tumor shrinking, it remains the same size or continues to grow. So if we can introduce inhibitors of these enzymes as well, then we can allow for the presence of the drugs to stay in the system long enough to actually do what it is supposed to do, shrink the tumor. So inhibitors of these enzymes have twofold activities, chemoprevention and also anti-cancer. So my PhD looked at 22 compounds that were categorized in 8 families. So we screened all of these for chemopreventive properties and anti-cancer properties. And from that, we published 4 original peer-reviewed papers and a patent. So just to share a little bit about some of the work, one of the families that I just shared with you is called chromine amides. And we worked closely at that time with the Department of Chemistry. So the Department of Chemistry would supply us with these natural products, and we would carry out the testing. So these chromine amides were isolated from the plant called Amyris plumeri. We actually got 6 of them, but 2 of them affected the fluorescence output of our research or the methodology, so we had to exclude CA4 and CA5. So we screened all of these against the cytochrome P450 enzymes. What I want to point your attention to is chromium amide 3. Ultimately, we are looking for the chromium amides to reduce the activities of these enzymes. But also we're looking for a degree of selectivity. And if you look closely at CA3, of the 3 enzymes, the 3 CYP1 enzymes, it selectively impacted CYP1A1. Little to no impact on 1B1. So where do these values come from? We were able to generate what we call IC50 curves. IC50 is short for inhibitory concentration. How much of the test compound is reducing the activity of the enzyme by 50%. So the lower the IC50 value, the less of the compound is required to inhibit the activity of the enzymes. And so you can gauge the potency of the compound. So what we did was anything that was under 1 micromolar, we classified that as potent, anything between 1 to 10 micromolar, moderate, anything above 10, weak. So almost no impact was observed on CYPs 1A2 and 1B1, which is good, because then this allows you to tailor this drug more effectively. But another thing I want to point your attention to is, in addition to looking at these 3 enzymes, we also looked at other CYP enzymes. CYPs 2C19, 2D6, and 3A4. Together, these 3 enzymes metabolize or clear out more than 80% of the drugs that we take in. So you take in a drug, it does the effect, your body needs to now remove it. These enzymes are responsible for removing those drugs. And of the 3, CYP3A4 is responsible for removing 50% or metabolizing 50%. If you know, so why did we do that? If we're looking to develop these drugs later on, you want to know, will there be possible drug-to-drug interactions? Because this might not be the only drug that the patient is taking. They might be taking something else. So you don't want this lead molecule ideally to impact these. But what we noticed was there was little to no impact on 3A4, which is really good for us. So the next question we asked was, okay, it's impacting 1A1 in a very selective way. How exactly is it impacting the enzyme? So we did enzyme kinetic studies, and we plotted what we call an ED-Hofstee plot to see how the compound is binding to the enzyme. And based on this plot, it indicated that the compound was exhibiting non-competitive binding. So it was binding to a site outside of the active site of the enzyme to an allosteric point. This might not mean much to you, but for us for me it meant something. So from this, we published the data. So this is one of the 4 original articles, and this actually came out before my PhD was done. And so the second aspect of my PhD looked at screening the anti-cancer potential of these 22 compounds. How did we do that? To share with you another family of compounds called the glycosides and the coumarin. These were isolated from the plant, Castella macrophylla. And to screen these for anti-cancer potential, we use what we call cell lines. We just grabbed our hands on some popularly used cell lines. So we use MCF7. This is a breast cancer cell line. HT29, a colon cancer cell line. Hep G, a liver cancer cell line. And we use normal colon cells. So we expose the test compounds to these cells at different concentrations, and our observation was, how is it impacting the cells? So, what did we see? I want to draw your attention to this compound here, the coumarin, which is actually called scopolamine. If you notice, it is only impacting the colon cancer cells, which is pretty remarkable. So when you look at how does this impact compare to the known drug that treats colon cancer, the IC50 value for our test compound was actually lower than that for the known drug. Fantastic. When you also look at the known drug's impact on the normal colon cells, there is impact there. Twice weaker than impacting the colon cancer, but still impact. Absolutely no impact. Our test compound showed no impact on the normal cells. Results like this got my blood boiling, like wow. And I'm just showing you a tip of the iceberg. This is just some of the data. I can't show you all of it. So we published this also in a pretty good journal. So the question was, so after all of that, in addition to those 4 original peer-reviewed papers, we published 2 reviews as well. So a total of 6 papers came out of my PhD, a patent and several awards. So what next? In the scheme of drug development, there are 3 primary steps. So the first step is screening these test compounds on cell lines, which is what we did. So we select the promising ones, and the next step is to screen them in specialized animal models. And you see here a weird-looking mice. It's immunocompromised. We call them nude mice. So typically, you would inject the cancer cells in these, observe for the growth of a tumor, and then expose these animals to the test compounds and see if the tumors actually shrink. So this was the area that I was interested in going in. The final stage is clinical trials just before drug development. Why not? Why not do it? We didn't have the facility, so I needed a plan, and Shara can tell you about that. So what was my plan? I needed to develop a protocol. I needed to identify funding, and at the time, National Health Fund had a call. So I prepared a proposal to do preclinical animal work on these test compounds. And I waited until NHF either said yay or nay. While I was waiting, my mind was now decluttered, so I could sit with my data, analyze what happened. PhD was done, this is after 2012, and some alarming things came to my attention. All these cell lines I looked at were used in my project. The MCF7, the HD29, the HepG, CCD18CU, they were all white cell lines, Caucasian cell lines. So the question was, what would our test compounds, what impact would they be giving on black people's cell lines? Would the impact be the same? Would it be different? If I'm going to be developing these drugs, lead molecules as drugs, wouldn't it make sense to test them on our own people first? So I began to search for black cancer cell lines and black normal cell lines. And some very alarming things came to me. I couldn't find anything from the Caribbean. And so from that time until now, I've been searching. And my search has led to 4 review papers. And 2 of these are in extremely high impact factor journals. As a matter of fact, one of them is in Nature Reviews Cancer, the leading cancer review journal in the world. And the essential points that I want to bring across to you today that we published in these manuscripts, 98% of the cell lines that we have available to us as researchers globally are Caucasians. So almost none from blacks. The other alarming thing is more than 90% of breast cancer cell lines are Caucasians. Prostate and breast cancers are primary concerns for us as black people. And so I zoned in on those 2 cancers in terms of incidence and mortality rates. Clinical trial enrollment to develop drugs for these cancers are primarily comprised of whites. So the next question is, how does this translate to treatments? When you look at the treatments that are developed, the treatments are more effective in a white person with cancer. When you compare that same type of cancer in a black person, more effective. And hence their incidence and mortality rates are on the decline, while our incidence and mortality rates in the Caribbean and in Africa are on the rise. So I'm not saying that societal impact doesn't play a role, but if the methodology that we have in place is biased or skewed to one ethnic group, then there is an imbalance in the efficacy of the drugs that treat us. So I said, we have to do something else. So NHF came back. NHF said, yes, I'm going to give you the funds. And I had to go back to NHF and say, can I change my proposal? Because more important, and Bill is here because Bill is one of the first persons I shared my idea with. I said, I need to change this. Yes, we still need to do the animal work, but before we get to that stage, we need to rectify the first stage. So I need a new plan. So instead of going directly to the animals, I said, let's come back here and let's develop our own cell lines. Naive of me, because I didn't understand the process of cell line development. Yes, I bought these, but later on it began to unveil itself. So I had a new plan. The funding that NHF gave to me, I needed to identify a lab space, outfit that lab at the macro and micro environment level. I needed a grad student, I needed protocols, I needed collaborators, because this is not a one-man show, and I needed to begin working. So as time progressed, my team evolved, and these are key members of the prostate cancer development team. And one person I want to highlight here is my first postgraduate student. He is now Dr. Valentine, doing postdoctoral work at Fox Chase Cancer Center. So it was me and Henkel. And Professor Reagan is here. She flew in actually for my talk. Thank you for coming. And Bill is here. And so together, we began working. So this is our lab, this is Henkel, and this is me. What did we need? We needed Bill to give us prostate tissue. That's the first thing, Bill and the other clinicians. We needed to identify men, black men, with prostate cancer, and we needed their informed consent. We then needed a sample from them, either biopsy or TERP, put that in transport media, take that to the lab, and process it. Easier said than done. As a matter of fact, when I was formulating the team, I reached out to 2 persons overseas who had knowledge of the prostate cancer cell line development work. And one person said to me, Simone, if I were you, I wouldn't do it. I've tried this cell line development, and it did not work for me. I've tried years, wasted time, money, energy, it didn't work. You're trying this from a resort, underdeveloped community setting, this is going to be difficult. Another person who actually did it, he said, girl, don't do this. And Simone actually means obedient, but this time, that was not a good enough reason for me not to do it. It's challenging, but we need to find a way to rectify the challenge. So before I move on, I want to share some terminologies with you. The first is primary explants, because as I say these things, I want you to understand what I'm saying. The first set of cells that radiate from the tumor, the viable cells, we term these primary explants. When these grow and we expand them, they're now termed secondary explants. And as they grow and we expand them, tertiary, until they get to cell line where they are immortal in culture. So ultimately, we need these cells to be immortal for us to classify them as cell lines. This was not easy. You thought you'd have gotten primary explants off the bat. It took us 1.5 years to see the first set of viable cells. During that time, we were trying to identify the right media for the cells, the right extracellular matrix for the cells. And we explored different types of media, different types of extracellular matrices. And what we found was that DMEM F12K in a 50-50 ratio supplemented with 20% serum was favorable to the cells. But this is a process that I'd like to look at. This is a tissue that's minced. When you have them unattached, this is how they look. But when they get attached, they spread out and have this morphology. And at this stage, they're termed primary explants. So after 1.5 years, on the 13th sample, we saw some good stuff happening. What we found was that our cells actually liked to attach to feeder cells. These formed like an extracellular matrix. So ultimately, you want to mimic what's in the body. And the cells actually grow in a network. They don't grow individually. And this is our tissue chips, and these are the feeder cells around it. then you will see our cells or primary explants growing on top of the feeder cells. And these are the feeder cells detaching, ready to die, and so leave our cells behind, because we don't need those feeder cells, right? This is our cells after 3 days in DMEM F12K, after 6 days, and then we changed it to another media. So the other thing that we have to note, while we want to develop cell lines, we need to ensure that we give the cells a consistent environment. We want to ensure that the cells that we create stay as closely as possible to the tumor, the genetics of the tumor. So if you expose the cells to different types of media, different combination, it's going to force some genetic drift in culture. So we had to find another media to replace it, because the cells like serum, right? Serum changes from batch to batch. So ultimately, in extending the lifespan of the cell, you need to take the serum out and use what we call defined media. So we used KSFM, and the cells actually survived there. This is them after 3 days in the change, 6 days in the change. So we said, okay, home run. We're there, almost there. No, not almost there. We started to see other cells popping up, some elongated cells. We were only interested in epithelial cells in order to classify these as cell lines. So fibroblasts started to pop their heads up. So that's the second challenge that we had to overcome. We saw this also in sample 14. So you see our PC prostate cancer cells, and you see the fibroblastic cells. So Henkel and I sat down, scoured the literature, and tried to find ways to deal with these fibroblasts. And several publications would have indicated these methods, and none of them worked for us. So that led us to creating our own method to work. So we recognized that the cells liked DMEM F12K in a 50-50 ratio, supplemented with 20%. We recognized that we could change that to a chemically defined media. Then we recognized that the epithelial cells radiated from the tumor at around days 2 to 3, and the fibroblasts would come out at around day 8. So what we did was take the tumor chips out at day 5. And when we did that, voila, no more fibroblasts. We actually prevented the presence of future fibroblasts. So I termed this novel method the Valentine effect after Henkel. So this led us now to samples 16 and 17. The first samples that we were able to extend to secondary explants. And we froze cells down as we went along, because what we realized is the cells would eventually die. So we've overcome the primary explant issue, we've overcome the fibroblast issue, but now we need to overcome them dying naturally. We hope that they would have survived naturally, because cancer cells are pretty much immortal, right? That was not the case. So we contacted Camille. Camille linked me to Dr. Grana, a cell biologist at Temple University. And he was actually exploring different methodologies of immortalizing cell lines. So we formed a collaboration with them to overcome the third hurdle to develop these cell lines. So we got going. But before that, we have to understand the process that cells actually go in, normal cells. A cell grows, divides in what we call a cycle, a cell cycle. Before the cell transitions from one point in the cycle to the next, there are different what we call checkpoint systems that govern the transition. So these are called cyclin-dependent kinases, and they work in conjunction with other proteins, cyclins or cyclin kinase inhibitors. If we look at this specific point in the cycle, you will see that if a problem is detected, instead of CDK binding to cyclin E, it binds to cyclin kinase inhibitor, preventing the cell from going from here to here. So if no problem is detected, the cell just goes in its cycle. If a problem is detected, it stops. And why does it do that? It does that for one of two reasons: to either fix the problem or to eliminate the problem. And that is what we want, to prevent cancer. So if the cancer cell is able to avert this process, then it's able to just continue to grow uncontrollably. So this CDK2 has different downstream effectors. And I want to point out that P16 and P14 are also cyclin kinase inhibitors. So CDK2 is communicating with these genes to say there's a problem, we need to fix it. And ultimately, the fixing is to stop the cell from continue to divide. So we think if we can prevent this communication from happening here, then we can prevent senescence. Or if we can prevent or knock down any of these tumor suppressor proteins, then we can prevent senescence. Another thing I want to point out is, in each cell we have what we call chromosomes. At the end of our chromosomes are telomeres. Each time the cell divides, the telomeres shorten until there is no more telomeres, and at that point it reaches what we call the Hayflick limit. At that point the cell dies. So if we can allow the cell to divide and not shorten the telomeres, then perhaps we can prevent the cells from senescing or dying. And so with these levels of thinking, we began to explore different methodologies. And ultimately, the method that we explored needed to not have any transformative effect on the cells. We want to ensure that we minimize any changes. As a lot of cell lines are on the market, they are very much transformed because of the immortalization procedures that have been used. We didn't want that for our cells. So we tried, first we exposed the cells to what we call conditional reprogramming and ROCK inhibitors. So when we have this in the cells, it would just continue to grow. But it's not immortal, because the moment you remove these, the cells just senesce. So we conditionally reprogrammed the cells so we could have enough to attempt different methodologies to immortalize them. So the first thing we did was to upregulate the human telomerase gene in order to ensure that those telomeres don't shorten. That alone did not work. So we then we tried to knock down the tumor suppressor protein P53 while concomitantly upregulating HTERT. That did not work. We knocked down CDK in 2A. That alone did not work. But what did work was knocking down CDK while upregulating HTERT. That process worked for us. And so we saw cells, and we were able to recognize that the cells were successfully immortal because we selected for them. If they were not immortal, they would not have grown in what we call hygromycin, puromycin treated media. So we're like, yes, we've done it. So we sent a batch over to this company called IDEX that needed to confirm that we actually did what we said we were going to do. 3 checks, and IDEX came back and said, your cells are contaminated with PC3 cells. Those are white prostate cancer cell lines, so we did not do it. And this was probably going on year 4 in the project. So Henkel, despondent, packed up his bag because this was done at Temple, came back home. Camille and I were on the phone, and we both agreed that, hey, this is a blessing. Because if it's done here, then you guys get to keep all the IP, intellectual property. So we hit the ground running again after a pep talk. But before that, we actually published this methodology with our collaborators in Nature Prostate Cancer and Prostatic Diseases. So in December 2019, I got a message from Henkel. So notice that was sample 16 and 17. So from 18 to 27, we tried and tried, nothing worked. So close to going on 4 to 5 years now, he sent me a message and he said, Dr. Badal, I think I have something. I actually immortalized sample 28, and I'm seeing cells growing in the puromycin hygromycin media. So cautiously optimistic. I said, continue growing the cells, Henkel. And then in January, we sent a batch to IDEX, the company we had sent the previous samples to, and IDEX sent the results. And like a child waiting for the grade to that exam, I opened my email. As a matter of fact, when I got the email, I didn't open it by myself. I ran to my husband, his office, and I said, Greg, I've gotten the email. And so IDEX gave me the report. And the first thing that I needed IDEX to tell me, are these cells human cells? And it checked. The next thing I needed IDEX to tell me, are these cells, do they have mycoplasma contamination? Check, no contamination. And the final thing I needed IDEX to tell me, are these cells novel? Check, no match. In February 2020, when the world was at the brink of a pandemic, we had created the first cell line from the Caribbean. After 5 years of work, and you would think that, okay, we can go sip a pina colada or something, put our legs up, write our manuscript, as John would say, but no, this was not enough for us to write our manuscript. IDEX did not tell me that this is prostate. IDEX didn't tell me what type of biomarkers. So we had to go on a journey of doing extensive characterization experiments on these cells. And so we began using immunofluorescence, Western blot, and a lot more that we can't do here, so we need the money to do those things in-house. Are these cells prostate? The first thing we need to answer. And so does the cell express androgen receptor, the primary prostate cancer biomarker? And our cells did not express that. That's not bad, because prostate cancer cells sometimes don't express that. But the challenge for us was that we could not corroborate that the cell line was connected to the original tumor. You see, we had exhausted the tumor in trying to develop the line that we could not. So now we had to now prove that this is prostate. And that didn't work. We also recognized, we looked at basal and luminal biomarkers, and we saw that our cell line actually expressed both basal and luminal biomarkers, which is interesting because at the time, and I think now, it's the first prostate line to express both. Prostate cell lines that exist either express one or the other. So that's interesting. We confirmed that P16 and P14, the two downstream markers of the CDKN2 that we knocked down, they were absent, so that's good. The immunofluorescence indicated as well that there was no AR androgen receptor in our cells. Our growth curve analysis indicated that the cells had a doubling time of 49 hours, which is reasonable, a little lower than other prostate cell lines, but faster than some, so that's okay. What we also looked at was the potential of our cells to form colonies or tumors in mice models. So we did a colony formation assay. And to do that, we seeded the cells at 500, 1,000, and 5,000 cells per half mil of matrigel. And we did see that our cells form colonies at around 40 micrometers in diameter, a little smaller than PC3 cells, but still colonies, indicating that our cells will form or should be likely to form tumors in mice. What is this showing us now? So the immunofluorescence confirms the presence of the CK5 and CK18, the basal and luminal biomarkers. So the other thing that we wanted to confirm, did the immortalization procedure transform our cells? And we used flow cytometry and seeded the cells. Remember, the cells senesce normally in culture, which means that if you are testing or looking at the number of cells in the different stages in the cell cycle, you should see less cells in the subsequent stages in the cycle. If the cells are transformed, you're not going to see any less. The peaks are going to be the same. And what this shows us, when we compare our cells with other prostate normal epithelial cells at different days, the cells were not being transformed. So the cells had maintained their growth pattern even after immortalizing them. So that was good for us. The other thing we wanted to confirm, if we expose the cells to DNA damage, how do they respond to the DNA damage? And even though we knocked down the CDKN2 gene, PRB, which is a downstream biomarker, was still expressed because there are different avenues to upregulate this protein. And so the cells would respond normally to DNA damage environment. So once again, good going. Our methodology was good for immortalizing these cell lines. And so after 5 years and 28 samples, we developed primary explants. We overcame the presence of fibroblasts, and we overcame the presence of senescence. And we finally published that we did create the first cell line from the Caribbean in 2022. So this is it, right? We've done a major feat. They told us we couldn't do it. We can break now? Absolutely not. No break. What's next? We need more cell lines. One cell line is far from enough. We need as many cell lines. So when we test our drugs, we need to be able to optimize identifying potential drug leads. And we can only do that when we have a wide array of cell lines. So we began working on more cell lines. And because of the promise of this work, NIH gave us funding in 2020. But the problem was, at that time, we couldn't access biopsies for prostate and TERP samples because those procedures were locked down. So we should just take a break then. No, breast cancer is on our list. So we need to now activate that. And that is what we did. And we had to create a team. And Dr. Cornwall, my supplier, she's here. She supplied me with breast cancer tissue. And my team, my graduate students, expanded to incorporate Shanique Clark, who is now at Oxford doing her PhD. So we got going. And interestingly, it did not take Shanique 1.5 years to create primary explants like it did with Henkel. Shanique used Henkel's thesis as her Bible. And so she was immediately able to create primary explants. However, the challenge that Shanique encountered was the fibroblast contamination. Because unlike the prostate, where the fibroblasts tended to emerge later down, these tended to emerge either before the epithelial cells or at the same time. So the Valentine effect was proven difficult to apply here. And so once again, we went back to the drawing board, looked at different mechanisms, methodologies, until finally we got a sample that the Valentine effect would work on. Sample 24 after 2.5 years. So we were improving. We were using the protocol that we developed for PC28 to improve on developing subsequent cell lines. So this is a picture of our ACRJBC24 in DMEM F12K 50-50 ratio. She changed it to DMEM 20% serum, and then she changed it to KSFM. And the cells here, not looking initially as good as you'd want them to, but also this is highlighting how the cells, the morphology change in different conditions. So she's trying to identify the right condition for the cells. So we sent the cells after Shanique said, okay, Dr. Badal, I think I have something promising. We sent the cells to IDEX. No, as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, we sent it to Carigen. We recognized that Carigen that's here could actually help us to verify that we've done what we said we're going to do. And we learned from sample 28. We had the original patient tumor. So we didn't have to go through that extensive proving that these are breasts. The moment we can confirm that the cell lines are actually from the original tumor, you can then check off these are breasts. So Carigen actually indicated that the patient cell line is the same cell, the cells are from the patient line. Carigen also indicated that our cell lines are novel. We also sent samples to a company called LabCorp, and we wanted them to verify, because Oh, I didn't tell you, we created 3 breast cancer cell lines. So the original line and 2 clones from the original line. And so we needed to confirm that these are all novel. And we did that. We also did in-house mycoplasma testing, and we also confirmed that the cells are human. So we checked that off. So we now are doing extensive characterizations on these 3 novel breast cancer cell lines. So I can't share too much with you because we're still writing the paper and still analyzing the data. But so far, we have done karyotyping assays and we're seeing some very interesting information. The parent line is showing normal chromosomes in all the cells, while the alpha cell line is showing abnormality in 3 of the cells that were tested, and the beta cell line is showing abnormal chromosomes in all the cell lines, all the cells that were tested. So this is highlighting that even though we have this cell line, each line is made up of different types of epithelial cells. And it's indicating the importance, the care that has to be taken with even treating cancer, and how cancers actually evolve over time. So we did growth curve analysis. We confirmed that the cells are epithelial and breast. We've conducted whole genome sequencing, whole exome sequencing. We also got a normal sample from the patient. So we are hoping to identify germline mutations, somatic mutations. We did RNA sequencing on the cells, Western blotting, immunohistochemistry, flow cytometry, xenografts, and we did cytotoxic assays. We've even done way more on these cells that we did on the prostate cancer cell lines. Our growth curve analysis indicated that the cells showed a growth rate between, say, 40 to 140 hours. These are papillary stains indicating that the cells are epithelial. The cells actually did not express estrogen receptor, did not express HER2, did not express PR, indicating that these are triple negative breast cancer cell lines. And this was confirmed with the IHC results. And I'm showing you here a table of all the biomarkers that we're investigating and the different methodologies. I'm not going to go into that, but to show you the depth of work that we're doing. And for this paper, we're hoping to actually publish in Nature Cancer. So that's one of the leading journals. We looked at, as I said before, 10 anti-cancer drugs, how these drugs affect our cell lines compared to other cells, both black and white. And we're seeing some interesting information. I'm not going to go too much into these, but we're seeing docetaxel, paclitaxel showing some selective impact on our cells. We also are doing drug screening data on our prostate cell line. So that's another manuscript that we're working on. So we've looked at abiraterone, betaine, cabazitaxel, docetaxel, enzalutamide. And you know what's interesting is that this olaparib is the only one that is actually impacting our cells. No impact, none of the other drugs are impacting our cells, while they're actually impacting the other 2 white prostate cancer cell lines. So this is data that we're going to be publishing soon. So what now? What next? We did receive an acceptance for the breast cancer work. So we have a conference that we're going to be presenting at in 2 weeks' time, the annual AACR conference. And the abstract will be published in Cancer Research. We have to finalize the current manuscript that we're working on. We're expanding our capacity for drug screens. We need to license the cell line. So we create these cell lines. For this project to be sustainable, we can now input these cell lines into the supplier, like ATCC, the suppliers for cancer cell lines, normal cell lines. ATCC wants our line, but the principal has asked me to hold off. So for now, our cell line can be available at the Canadian supplier, ABM. So if you notice, if you go on their website, you will see our ACRJ cell lines. They're available. So, with most of my degrees from the University of the West Indies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening to my talk. Thank you to God. Thank you to my family, my friends, my husband. Special thank you. Special thanks to the principal who had to leave, the deputy principal, my wonderful ACRJ postgraduate team, most of them are here, my collaborators, the funding agency, and I can't leave out John. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'm sure you'd want me, on your behalf, to thank Simone for that wonderful set of lectures. And at this point in time, Simone, can I just invite you to come over here? They've made this special area for us. All right. Left or right? I'm told you shouldn't ask police. You can ask doctors that, can't ask police. All right. For questions, are there any questions that the audience, we'll take questions both from the general audience as well as from the online queue. Can I get my microphone folks ready? And while we do that, we just want to acknowledge the Honorable Marcia Smith. Welcome. She's a state minister in the Ministry of Education and Youth and ready? Okay. All right. So what? Oh, give her back the mic. Oh. All right, I'm good to go now. All right. So I'm supposed to monitor the online question they tell me on my thing here. So Simone, I have a question from Abigail. So let's put on the glasses to make sure I can see it. And Abigail is interested in asking you, what inspired you to focus your research on prostate cancer?
So when I was looking at the disparities in black and white, I wanted to narrow my focus to two cancers that are of concern to blacks and the Caribbean. And the two leading cancers, breast and prostate. So that's how I chose those two.
Okay, so that seems to be a numbers game. Are there any plans to expand to any of the other cancers that affect Jamaicans or the Caribbean people?
I'm sure my students can also take up that mantle. There's so much work to be done with the breast and prostate, but I'm open to cut those conversations.
Okay. And if it is that we wanted perhaps just a simple 2 or 3 sentences as take-home messages from the work, what would you identify those take-home messages as?
What would those sentences be?
Yes.
Well, we're trying.
Oops, Mike? Oh, okay.
We're trying to level the playing field for black people with cancer. So this work is setting the stage to ensure that when we conduct screening on our natural compounds or synthetic compounds to identify drugs or molecules that can be created as drugs, we do that in a way that our black people benefit from the data.
Sure. And then a follow-up third question is, having identified the disparity, I think, how would you characterize your research as contributing to an understanding of the disparity? Because one of the issues is that oftentimes, if we compare ourselves to, say, the US, oftentimes individuals or commentators may say some of this disparity has to do with differences in income, environmental issues. But I think what you're demonstrating is that there is also a disparity in biology.
So we have a long way to go.
Right.
But so far, based on even those cytotoxic screens that I'm showing you, when you're seeing the differential impact of the anti-cancer drugs on our black cells compared to whites. There are some data out there showing that genes play a role, and we're not saying that genes or society. We know that there's a contribution of everything, but at the end of the day, you can't say, okay, incidence or mortality rates, it's because blacks, or for example, white or black men are not going to get testing earlier. So they will be more likely to have, when they are diagnosed with prostate cancer, it would be in the advanced stage if they're not testing earlier. And so at that stage, it might not be easy to remedy it as if they had gotten tested in the earlier stages. So we understand that, we appreciate that. But from a cell biologist point of view, my area is to tackle increasing the representation of our tools so that we can fully delineate those questions.
Sure. Good. And wearing my principal's hat, or deputy principal hat, or my acting hat, you mentioned that you had to, what would be your next step in terms of an environment that you would be looking for in order to continue the work?
An environment?
Yeah. What else would you need?
We need a lab that we can grow our animals.
Okay.
We need an entire system. A lot of this work was done overseas.
Okay.
Where we use the immunoblotting, the immunofluorescence. We need all of that here. It is my goal that I don't need to call Camille every time I need some work done. I can actually get all that done here. That's the ultimate goal.
Okay. Oh, principal left. Oh, I'll tell him. All right. So the other question that is being posed is that, do you think that based on the data that you have collected so far, in that would you say that you're in a position now to clinically test any of those lead molecules?
No, you're far from it.
You're far from it. Okay. All right. Did any of your lead molecule comes from any of our nice things like we hear, the tomatoes and all of those things? Are they from? So
for those test compounds, that work was done with chemistry, and I think Professor Helen Jacobs was the one leading those. She actually went to the cockpit country. She was trying to identify novel compounds. So she was looking for plants that are endemic, not popularly used. So like the chromium amides were isolated from the plant Amaris plumeria. That's not a plant that people know. The quashionoids came from Castello macrophylla and other, not quashionoids, sorry, the glycosides. We had xanthones coming from Garcinia humilis. So no, we didn't actually look at those popularly used plants.
No guinea hen weed?
We're trying to identify novel compounds.
Are there any questions? Oh, Sir John.
Thank you very much, Mark. Congrats, Simone. I just want to know that since you have published these cell lines, what kind of uptake have you had from other labs across the globe?
Well, from ABM, that literally went in ABM's cell line bank late last year. So it's still early. It's still early. But what I can tell you is that a lot of labs have been requesting our cell lines.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Simone, and we are so proud of you. I might have missed it, but just to explain to me, you said when you were doing the prostate cell lines, you couldn't tell at first if it was prostate. You remember you took us through that. How did you eventually know that it was coming from the prostate?
So we looked at other prostate-specific biomarkers. So we looked at like a MAC-R, and the cell line did express that using immunohistochemistry. And we looked at the RNA-seq data, and we did see that the expression for those prostate-specific biomarkers and NKX3.1. We also looked at neuroendocrine-specific biomarkers, And typically, a prostate cancer of a neuroendocrine phenotype does not express AR. So we use the RNA-seq data to tease out, like, I think 10 neuroendocrine specific biomarkers, and we compared the RNA expression to PC3 that also expresses these, and our cell line expressed a lot of these biomarkers in even greater levels than PC3, indicating that the cell line is of a neuroendocrine phenotype, and so we're able to confirm that it is prostate.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. So I have a question here from our online audience, Dr. Crawford Sykes. Has any other scientist from a non-Caucasian dominant country started any of this work as well that you're aware of?
I believe Bahamas, or was it Barbados? Emory? Kenya. Okay.
Okay, so our East African colleagues are doing some work here as well.
But we're the first, right?
As usual, Jamaicans will like to be the first. All right. Are there any other questions? Local? Oh, yes. Microphone here, please.
Good evening, everyone. I want to also commend Dr. Badal for a very impressive, relatable presentation. I actually was sitting forward as I was listening and marveling at the wonderful work. But to my question, you had asked earlier about what is needed here to do most of the work. And I wanted to ask that from a higher infrastructural level. My background in engineering makes me want to think about how to communicate and share practical steps to collaborate to establish research labs, research centers here in Jamaica in order to perhaps, lobby the government to reserve spaces, establish infrastructure, to then also collaborate with the private sector. VM is here to be able to understand what is needed, size, space, climate control, people, scientists, contractors, designers. What is UE as a start doing to set out things where a wider, multifaceted, interested persons can pick a task to tackle?
I think Professor Reed should answer that question.
All right, so I will start by saying we recognize and share with you that if we are going to contribute successfully to the development of the society, as Principal alluded to, is that all four key stakeholders need to come together and move forward. So who are those four key stakeholders? They're the private sector, they're the public sector, there's civil society, and then there's academia, the academy. So if you had noticed, one of our strategies that we have embarked upon is really to bring the academy to you all, to the public sector, the private sector, and to civil society. One of the tools or one of the mechanisms that we're doing is in these kind of forums. So Victoria Mutual was one of the first one on board to identify with the idea. And as I said, this is our fourth over the installment. Because if we never had this, you probably wouldn't, it's going on, but you probably would not have known about it. So in this iteration, not only did you see a lecture here, but yesterday we also had an issue where we invited some selected individuals of the different foundations to actually just have a tour of our facilities so that they could engage with what currently exists. They could hear what is some of our vision, where we would want to go, and more importantly, they could interact with the people, because you have to invest in the people. One of the highlights of Simone's lecture is the number of postgraduate students that she has had. Some of them are now doing postdoc work, some of them are doing doctoral work at Oxford, not as good as us, but doing a thing or two, all right? So it's a multifaceted approach, and what you will be hearing us, because at some point in time, some of this work needs to be part of a business venture. So you'll be hearing from us. And I'm happy that you have stepped forward. We'll certainly become calling. So I'll get your business card in a few minutes so that we can continue the conversation after this is finished. All right? All right, we'll have some questions. Oh, Prof! come, PVC Research. Let's hear from her. I'm sure she must be very happy.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. It is a very wonderful experience, and I'm extremely proud of you, Simone. I look forward to more publications. I look forward to more graduate students succeeding in this area. I just wanted to ask you how much cross-collaboration, in terms of cross-campus collaboration, have you had? I find it's always intriguing how so much of our work is campus-based, and our colleagues across the campuses, sometimes don't hear about this excellent work. So just wondered if there are any plans, or have you been working with colleagues from across the campuses? And if not, how do we, I have to think of it, I suppose, how do we ensure that our colleagues from other campuses share in this excellent work? But congratulations, and I'm extremely proud of you.
Thank you. So I'm a part of the AC3 consortium, the African Caribbean Cancer Consortium, and that brings together different universities of the West Indies campuses. Right now for this project, it's mainly at UA. So my collaborations for this project is in-house. So I collaborate a lot with clinicians. So like for the prostate cancer work, I need people to supply me with tissue. I need radiologists, I need a pathologist. So for now, that's there. But we have other projects that I haven't even spoken about, where I'm actually working with collaborators from other campuses.
All right, thank you so much. One additional question here.
Hello, Prof. Dr. Claudette Q. Thompson. Dr. Simone Badal McCreeve, I find your work trailblazing, and of course we can testify to the science, but what I find intriguing and interesting about your work is the critical social justice lens that you keep referring to. How is this aspect of your work received, not just in the Caribbean, but across the world?
When I just had the idea to create these cell lines, so this was when, Bill, 2015, the reception was not good. But I find that as time progressed, persons were understanding. So we were ahead of the curve, right? So now NIH funded the project. So in 2020, NIH, as the main US funder, gave us funding to expand on the prostate cancer cell line development. So they recognized the importance and the need of the work, and hence we were successful in getting that. And there's so much other work that's addressing disparities for blacks around the globe. So call-ins that are specific, funded call-ins that are specific for work that target addressing cancer disparities in black men and women.
All right, great. I have one question here from a Michael Young. He's concerned about your IP and what process or steps that we are taking to ensure that your intellectual efforts are adequately safeguarded and protected.
Oh, that's your question.
Oh, that's my question?
I'm a scientist, guys. I know everything.
Suffice it to say that we have adopted her here in the principal's office, so we'll make sure that part. All right, colleagues, that brings me now, and there'll be no further question, to the next phase of this evening's proceedings. And the next phase is actually a very happy phase. We recognize that in science, it's really a partnership. It's really, you really cannot be successful as an individual. It takes many persons and many institutions to actually build and mold all of us. And in the interest of giving back and demonstrating our gratitude, we do have some tokens that we would want to share with a few selected individuals. All of you are important. all of you in some way, shape, or form have contributed to the success of the university. We're 75 years going into our 76th. But we just wanted today to highlight and recognize a few special individuals. The first, on behalf of the principal, because he had to leave unexpectedly, we'll invite the campus registrar, Dr. Stanberg. Could you come and collect a little token or gift that Simone will hand over to you in your capacity as the university representative.
Okay.
So let's go and have your thing. Remember, it's not yours. You're just collecting it on behalf of principal. Yes. All right. May I invite Mr. Courtney Campbell, CEO of Victoria Mutual. Great. May I invite Mrs. Blackwood to accept on behalf of the Minister Grange and I'm just going to, while she settles and gets herself together, the Honorable Smith to take a presentation on behalf of the Ministry of Education. Minister of Education. So colleagues, each of the recipients received a copy of Dr. Badal's book. It should make very good reading, and tomorrow I'll quiz you all. All right, thank you, Dr. Badal. I'll turn back the ceremony over to the campus registrar.
Deputy Principal, this brings us to the end of our lecture today. I'm only an economist now pushing paper as a registrar. So to be frank with you, I don't even know if I understand 10% of what was going on. But what I saw was a colleague who knows our stuff so much that it was completely unscripted and took us on the journey. So even though I don't understand, I find myself bowing. But seriously though, what I saw was resilience, originality, perseverance, determination, creativity, innovation, and as somebody made a point, really, even though it's science, there's a little bit of social science in it in terms of social justice. And I think that that encapsulates what the university is about. So let us hear it one more time for Simone Badal. I really want to thank Principal in his absence for initiating this distinguished lecture series to remind us what we're about as an academy and the impact that we must have, and to really tell our story of the great work that is being done here on campus. Is very important that we shout it out and tell everybody. We are thankful for Victoria Mutual, Mr. Campbell, the CEO, who did not need much persuasion in terms of buying into this vision and going in his pocket and making it possible for us to have this lecture. Let's hear it for Victoria Mutual Group, please. For the Deputy Principal, whose office coordinates all of that and makes sure that we have a function here this afternoon. The medic, Dr. Professor Reed, our Deputy Principal, give him a hand, please. And for our people in marketing and all those who were involved in the logistics of pulling off this Simone Badal week. It's been a whole week of activities, It's a great effort, and we thank everybody involved. And to you, the audience, I know that, I want to thank the minister. Despite all the interesting thing in the house, she was able to pull herself out. I know when I was in government after the Prime Minister speak, there was an after party somewhere tonight at the Pegasus or somewhere, but she find herself here at UE. Let us give the minister a big hand, please. And to all our well-wishers, those who are online, who participated and fielded questions, it's important that you are connected. And for those who will take the message far and wide, we hope to see a lot of write-up in the newspaper and so on. Thank you for those who are doing that great work. For my friend and former neighbor from the Scientific Research Council, introduce Simone. Thank you very much. And everybody who is here this evening. And we're not going to let you go hungry. I myself am very hungry, so let us conclude this and we'll refresh ourselves. Thank you very much, and we look forward to the fifth in this series of our distinguished lectures.
Every click, swipe, or tap solves a problem, sweetens a moment, and unlocks rewards. So, what puts you in control of purchases, payments, and a global platform of perks? This card can. Get your VM Visa Gold or Visa Platinum credit card today. When someone is on top of things, it shows. On top of the day, on top of the game, on top of the world. And no other card puts you in charge like your new Visa credit card from VM. Every click, swipe, or tap solves a problem, sweetens a moment, and unlocks rewards. So, what puts you in control of purchases, payments, and a global platform of perks? This card can. Get your VM Visa Gold or Visa Platinum credit card today. When someone is on top of things, it shows. On top of the day, on top of the game, on top of the world. And no other card puts you in charge like your new Visa credit card from VM. Every click, swipe, or tap solves a problem, sweetens a moment, and unlocks rewards. So, what puts you in control of purchases, payments, and a global platform of perks? This card can. Get your VM Visa Gold or Visa Platinum credit card today.
Proud Pelican, so we are proud Pelican.
The UE Mona is the best place to get your degree. This is coming from a proud Pelican, of course. I invite you to become a part of the Pelican family and have one less worry.
Welcome to the University of the West Indies. The best in the West, no, the best in the world, no, the best in the galaxy. Your place to rise and your place to shine and your place to be. So get ready to experience the place where them call the way. Welcome to
Be a pioneer, a problem solver,
A critical thinker.
Don't just build a monument,
Build a leader.
be that leader.
We get them things they done properly. Believe in our mark.
So what are you waiting for? Apply to the UE Mona and become a part of the Pelican family. So apply, apply, apply.